Affairs in the National Institution of Human Rights, and Mr. Tariq Ghazi, former Member of Parliament.
Bismillah, participants here for their accepting our invitation and coming to this cultural event. I would like to start to give a very brief introduction about the background of the religion tolerance in Bahrain, and I feel it will be difficult to go into the subject direct without talking about the background and the history of Bahrain. And therefore, for those who didn't know about Bahrain, Bahrain is a Muslim country in the Gulf, in the Middle East. It is 700 kilometers square. It is 1.2 million population. Half of them are expats. You can say almost 600 to 600,000 nationals. Those nationals and expats, they go, most of them, living in Bahrain with different culture, religion, background, custom, and they enjoy their tolerance, country tolerance, that this country accepts that all religions are welcomed and they can be part of our society, and also they can practice their religion in their own faith and respect by everybody. It's also talking about Bahrain. Bahrain is talking about Delmon, it's about Awal, talk about thousands of years in the history where the civilization, the international civilization, came through the country from the west, resisting to the Middle East and going to the west, to the east, to India, and all colonial powers and countries passed through Bahrain as well. So there were Portuguese, Dutch, British, and some and before them the Ottomans as well. So you can see the whole cultures and the whole civilization passed through Bahrain, and they found Bahrain is a land they can use it. They can be part of their colonial or their territories or their business district. And the Bahrainis, since then, since thousands of years, they were very like to live with people, and this is why Bahrain is metropolitan society with metropolitan culture, with people living in very calm and peaceful way. This is small and brief and a quick overview. I'm sure we have some materials outside near the door talking about Bahrain. You can see the history and all about that and what's not in details on that documentation there. For those who would love to have some readings and references, they are most than welcome to go and take some of these references. Also, if they need any additional references, we'll be more than happy to receive any email or request. We can provide the information required. Moving from the history to the geography, where we are now in Bahrain. Bahrain is now one of the modern countries. It is civilized. It is very modern. It is also leading in financial sector and private business sector. It is well known as at very early stages where they accept to be reform and democracy. That comes from since the 50s. Talking about the colonial, Bahrain were colonized till 1970. So Bahrain were left alone to manage their own territory and develop their own countries only since 1970. And if you see from 1970 till now, in theory, it is very small period of time in the history. So from 1970 till now, I think Bahrain managed to establish a very modern constitution, leading constitution, and also we're in the front line of other Gulf and region countries in introducing democracy and in implementing human rights standards and principles to be part of our national institution, national legislations and laws, And if you read our first constitution, 1973, and thereafter 2002, you can see all these principles of human rights, and in particular, those respect to the religion is inherited inside and were perceived by all Bahrainis, as you see where we are. Talking about the current situation in Bahrain about religion, I can give you a quick summary about some numbers. At the moment, we have more than 339 mosques in Bahrain. This is for Sunni Muslims, and there is almost 1,300 for Shi'i mosques and martyrs. And also we have 16 churches and some of them temples, those for Jewish and Christian and some other locations or places for different spirits and religion. Those who see Bahrain, I think the first church may be established during the 70s. It was very early stage, and it was also first introduction to the Gulf for introducing or accepting different religion to be part of the recognized religion in Bahrain. So for those who are in Bahrain for a long time, they can see a lot of churches now became part of our scenery, it's part of our civil design and civil culture. You can see them around. It's very beautiful when you move around Bahrain and you see on your right hand side a mosque, and next to it maybe a few miles or a few kilometers, a few meters is a church, or in the other side is one temple, and people going very freely, very friendly to where they want and practice their religion. So talking about human rights standard, as you know, Bahrain became very active in the human rights area, where they participate on the preparation conference in Tehran for the preparation for Durban, the first, and Durban, the second conference for religion tolerance. Bahrain very active. It was part of the resolution that was recommended from Tehran, were adopted on Durban 1 and Durban 2. It's also, we are a great promoter that this declaration or this resolution being accepted, being practiced, being also spread the awareness and the culture about it. And therefore, in Bahrain, in the recent years, the king of the country and the government and the civil society, they have conducted a civilization dialogue, the first and the second, and also they supported the Saudi Arabia King Dialogue Conference in Spain. That was a few years ago, and also we are trying to work hard with any international institution in promoting this, to make that culture is something not only practiced and acceptable or find up to the standard of Bahrain, but also somewhere else in the world. So that's why in Bahrain here, the people of Bahrain are very tolerant and are very calm to accept any different culture and custom. And we are seeing that it is part of the community, it is part of the culture of Bahrain. They are also represented on the government. Those are coming from different religions. They are represented on the government institution. There are some ministers, some ambassadors. They are in the council, Shura council representative. Is also somewhere different in the business sector, where you can see some different people come from different religion. They are also now Bahraini, and they are practicing and having a great business and successful. I think Bahrain has become a good example. We see this experiment is very good to be seen, to be examined, to be looked at, and it's also to be further improved. So improvement is always there, but we feel that Bahrain have done a lot of initiatives towards making religion and all others practice is something make people of their life and their welfare and their practice is something that is always welcome and acceptable. So by here I think I will stop, and I will move the speech to my colleagues here, Mr. Ghazi Farid Ghazi, to talk about same issues from different perspectives. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Born in Manama, I usually play with my friends for a while. I have so many friends in Manama. Unfortunately, when we raised together and we went to the school together as a friends, boys and girls, in the early or in the late of the 70s, in the beginning of the 80s, we discovered that I'm a Sunni and he's a Shi'i and he's a Jew, and this one is a Christian and the other is Sikh or Buddhist. Before the revolution in Tehran, in Bahrain, Sunnis and Shi'is lived together. My wife is a Shi'i, I'm a Sunni. Our president in the Bahrain Bar Society, she's a Shi'i. Her husband is a Sunni. So before the politics, for myself, I don't like to speak political way. I speak about Bahrain, how to lift people in Bahrain. Unfortunately, the political issues spoiled the relation between people in Bahrain. So now I'm represent how the Bahraini was lived till now, and we will try to go back to our nature in Bahrain. Bahrainis, they have, when they lived together, they lived friendly, and as a relative, they have relative also from Sunni and Shi'is. This is Bahrain. But as I said, nowadays, things in the world is different. So we would like, as a people of Bahrain, to avoid all the political issue from affecting our movement, because we believed as a Bahrainis to work together to live in peace in Bahrain. This is our target in Bahrain. So now in this meeting we have a message to the world that Bahrain would like to live in peace, and not all the news about Bahrain is the truth news. Because if someone would like to know about Bahrain, he should listen to the all people of Bahrain. He should see all the facts on the reality, not the reality some people try to draw it and to convince the world that this is the fact what's happening in Bahrain. What's happening in Bahrain is different of what is in the media, unfortunately, now about Bahrain. Bahrain is a very peaceful country, very peaceful people. So this is our message to the world. And thank you very much.
Rahman, who will give us a small brief about the Jewish community in Bahrain.
I've seen it over there. This is a book written and edited by a lady, a Jew, and she calls me my uncle because I lived with her father, late father, for many years during our study. And while we were much younger than now, in school, as a primary school, as secondary school, and then as well in the universities. So I lived with this young lady. I can't say that I have brought her up with her father. So she is speaking about the Jews when they came to Bahrain back 100 years ago, maybe. That's back in 1904, probably. So she's talking about since their grandfather came to Bahrain, how they lived, who are their neighbors, and who were they working with, whom they lived with, studied with, and so on. And obviously this is not the only family. We have a lot of Jewish families living in Bahrain. This is only an example of them. And this lady now, she is a member of the upper house of the parliament, next to another Christian and next to another Muslim. As well as we have representative for the Hindus, we have representative for the Buddhists, and we have representative in all government houses and departments, institutions, ministries. All religions are living in harmony together. So this shows how Bahrain is actually a tolerance place, is actually a peaceful place for people to live in. Just to give you another example, during the crisis, there was, of course, what they call it, the opposition, and there was others. But at the same time, I would say from both sides, especially from those people who loves Bahrain, they were as well marching against anything happens to Bahrain. They were marching in love for Bahrain. There were Jews, Hindu, Christians, Muslims, nationals and expats. They were in harmony, marching together against anything happens to Bahrain. Because whoever not even lived in Bahrain, whoever visited Bahrain, loved Bahrain. And whoever lives in Bahrain must come back to Bahrain. Bahrain is not the only place in the world, and not the only heaven in the world, but it is one of those places that people get in love with it. And I think love is not a small word, it's a big word between people. We have to spread love between people, and we live all in harmony together. Thank you very much.
And now, the distinguished panel will listen to your questions if there's any. Yes, please.
Diplomat of Iran. I was ambassador in Nordic countries. I'm a lawyer now. I have effected my embassy in 1982 and joined the Iranian resistance against the tyranny in Tehran. I just wanted to emphasize and give my best greeting to your nation, to your state, that the regime of Iran has no right to interfere in Bahraini affair. Because the things that are happening in my country is so dreadful that it is unprecedented in the history of mankind. And when I see that government, that usurping government meddling in Bahrain, trying to foment communal quarrels, we Iranians, we just laugh at that, because we think that it's much more serious situation in Iran. So that's why the people of Iran, they are mobilizing themselves to do away, because you're right, I just listened to the last person, the judge, and you, before this Khomeini movement in Iran, we have never had in the region any religious problems. You know, everybody was living in harmony, as in your country, in my country. When I was a diplomat, I saw many people from different religions living together. It was not until this so-called Islamic revolution and Wilayat al-Faqih, which had nothing to do with Islam, that everything was ups and down, and the people of Iran, they are not suffering the worst in the history of their long civilization. So I just wanted to emphasize that I sympathize with your nation, with the people. Be aware of these mullahs in Iran, and they are the enemy number one, not even of the region, but of Islam. because they tarnish the face of Islam and they have no right to interfere in wonderful Bahraini people and that beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a somewhat different perspective on some of the events in your country. But I have one question which I'll come to briefly. There's no doubt there are many good things about Bahrain, but I don't think the dispute is about whether you have religious tolerance or not, or you've had it, or what the history is. The fact is there's some very serious repression and some very serious human rights violations being committed by the government of Bahrain. We can debate those here, but again, I think you know where we're coming from, you know where to find our publications, and we have a good sense of what government representatives say. But my question to you is, and I appreciate an answer to this, is why does the mission of Bahrain have this discussion in this small room here that can only be attended at this busy time by a relative handful of people? Why don't you have this discussion inside the Human Rights Council with the opportunity for delegates to pose questions, to understand the situation? You'll present your picture of events in Bahrain. Others like Amnesty International and some other governments perhaps will challenge it. But it would be a much more fruitful discussion than to have this closed away. Just in closing, would say that had we spoken about Bahrain 6 months ago, I think many people, including even representatives of Amnesty International, would have said, you did a very good presentation, participation in the UPR. The UPR follow-up was very interesting. There were a number of positive developments. Not everything was rosy. You have a history of torture in Bahrain, and that was persisting. But there were many positive developments. And this current repression, notwithstanding the many good things you've told us about, sir, you're wasting the progress you made. But please, the question is, why don't you have this discussion inside the council? Thank you.
What's happening in Bahrain. So with all respect to the religion, we believe in Bahrain, the religion should be not effect on the people. This is a way of life, but I think all the prophets teach the people how to respect the principle, how to live together on our island. But unfortunately, some of the opposition, they use this this issue in different way of wilayat al-faqih or whatever. So thank you very much.
A response to your suggestion, first of all, thank you very much for your kind way. This session is introduced under the paper that is presented by Pakistan under the item number 9, which was presented yesterday afternoon to the panel on the council inside. So we said we took this opportunity during the course of that presentation of Pakistan, which Bahrain was part of that dialogue and discussion, and it is talk about religious tolerance. We took this opportunity to present and focus on that item only. This is why we are here today, and we are presenting only one segment of the human rights, just to support that paper and give our opinion on that from Bahrain perspective. Talking about why we are having this one here or inside, this is a different attempt and different exercise. We are trying to spread additional awareness about it. If you see, we are non-governmental, all of us here. We are from the civil society. I am representing human rights, this gentleman representing Bahrain Bar Association. We seek some help from the law from Geneva here to allow us to come to this panel, because still we don't have a status and we are not still registered to be accredited to be talking inside the panel at the moment. We are trying at the moment to fulfill the requirements from both sides, and once we are registered, hopefully, inshallah, you will see us talking inside. But also talking about what happened in Bahrain in the recent years, I think what happened in Bahrain is very clear, and it was well documented, well covered from all medias, whether it's from local, regional, or international. We respect those who are objectively reflecting on what is happening in Bahrain. Unfortunately, some of the reference you've been talking about, we are disappointed about them in Bahrain, and there is international NGOs, those are having a track record, and working, and they have long history of working and promoting and defending human rights. When they came to Bahrain in the recent years, their performance and what they have done in Bahrain was below the standard. I give you one example. I think one international NGO from Washington came to Bahrain and rejected to listen to other views. The government of Bahrain allowed them from the airport to enter freely, to go inside the country without restrictions. And they've been visiting the villages, the cities, and everywhere. And we met with them as a human rights institution, and we've been talking about many things which they recognize, they have heard about it, but thereafter, when they issued their report, it was representing one opinion. It was disappointing from a human rights defender to reflect one-sided opinion of what is happening. We are not saying in Bahrain there was no violations. I think the Crown Prince in Bahrain has said that publicly. There was some failures, and there's some mistakes from both sides. But also, we should recognize the attempts taken by the government, and especially by Ministry of Interior, when they establish a committee to take anybody has done any violation to the court and hold them accountable. And I think we heard in the news there was 4 or 5 from the police force taken to the court. This sort of attempt and action we strongly support, and we feel this is the right things. And also we support always the positive steps toward promoting and protecting human rights in Bahrain. We didn't take this panel as an opportunity to talk about what happened in Bahrain from 14 February and thereafter, and because the focus we have said, but we can have a side discussion if you like, and I can exchange some business card, and we could meet, and we can talk in details about 14 February and what's happened after that. But I can agree with you, what's happened in Bahrain, it is when you talk about violation, it is a sectarian, it is a political, it is a security issue. It is not one of them only, it is a mixture. The Bahrain question or the Bahrain issue, it is a complexity. It is not easy to see what happened in Tunis or in Egypt or currently Libya and Yemen, and people think that this is the same in Bahrain. It is absolutely total story. Those who feel that this is a wave, those who call it Arab Spring, or this is, they say, the democratization of the Middle East, or what is definition they are labeling this. This is a different story in Bahrain. This issue has a roots in the history before Tunisia and Egypt and other countries. This one, I think, it is a local, a national dispute. There is some sect of people that are raising their voices, asking for a couple of demands. The government announced immediately, within 14 days, the national dialogue, which was rejected by the protesters. For 1 month, there was government insisting, calling, please come to the dialogue without conditions and terms. This attempt, which we feel very sorry, wasn't used. Anyway, that has a lot of story, and we can talk about it later on. The current before, and at the course of that time, one of the protesters, he declared the Islamic Bahrain Republic.
On the base of the
protester, following Wilayat al-Faqih, which is the gentleman just talked about. I didn't want to go in details on public, talk about what is Wilayat al-Faqih, why this guy who declared the Republic Islamic of Bahrain, who pushed him, what is the link behind him, whether it is political. It is a big issue, need to be addressed carefully, and need to be put in the right context, and to be examined. And we feel that each stakeholder in Bahrain has a part and role to participate in that one. So I'm sorry to be responding a little bit more than I should, but I think this is a very clarification to that, and I welcome if we'd like to sit aside and talk about more things about human rights in Bahrain. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. And by profession, I'm a journalist, and I know how to twist stories, you know. So I exactly know the story about Bahrain. I mean, as the gentleman, the honorable panelist has just mentioned that, you know, the story, because, you know, most of our Western friends, I mean, they make up their mind, they write articles, they write stories, they give interviews, without realizing the actual on-ground reality. Now, that is very important, because I might not know as much as you do, because you present Bahrain here. Now, my point is that it is very, very important for people to start a debate and to generate again a debate, and to go to various places and you know, just deliver the idea which they think is correct. I mean, that actually generates in the long run a different perception, and that should be clear, I guess. That's very important. And to me, my question is, you know, this is my first time in the Geneva Convention, but I've been told about my country, where I was born and I've lived forever. I'm 39 years old. Things that I've never even heard about. Why? Is the media deliberately playing to create some other story? I don't understand that. So my point is that, you know, I guess when we come at such a noble and a huge platform, it is very important to deliver the right, appropriate, in-hand knowledge, which has very much authenticity in it. Thank you, sir.
All free to worship within the confines of this compound, and they all express their religion, their Christianity, and they live their Christian life quite freely and quite openly in Bahrain.
When we came here, the Bahraini families, all people, they used to respect us, and there was no restriction from anywhere in Bahrain.
When we live together in such a peaceful manner and understanding each other, that is the core of peace and harmony in a country.